Great. So it's really lovely to be speaking to Jenni Jones today. I am doing this video with Jenni. She's an amazing yoga teacher, pregnancy yoga teacher. She's also a doula and does loads and loads of work with women and couples who are pregnant and going on their new journey. So yeah, as I'm currently pregnant, 18 weeks now, which is exciting. So I thought it'd be great for us to have a conversation, really, because this is a unique time to be pregnant, I guess, and going through all of the motions of that, plus this new environment that we find ourselves in. So Jenni, I found out about you because so many people that I know just rave about your classes and your couples workshops and everything that you do. So I thought definitely, I was like, we need to speak, and already just the chats we've had before this video have really calmed me and taught me so much, because you've been working for 15 years now in this field and supporting women and their partners. So yeah, hopefully in this conversation we're going to have a really lovely chat about kind of all the different things that I know I've got on my mind, which are I guess like all of the fears that and things that you don't even realize are in your mind about birth and pregnancy and how to navigate that, and then this idea of like positive birth and how we can learn that birth isn't actually what we saw Jennifer Aniston do on Friends, or what we've seen in films and all those horror stories we might have heard as we've just gathered from over the years. So I'm hoping that your experience of sort of positive birth and having a discussion around that feeling of making choices and being informed as well, which is something I'm learning more about, how important that is to understand how your body works and the choices you've got around birth. So yeah, that's a little bit of an introduction into what you do, and so how did you get into it and start doing it?
Oh, well, firstly, thanks for that introduction. I actually had a little cry there.
Oh,
thank you. Thanks, Ruth. Big congratulations on your pregnancy.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the start of your journey.
Yeah.
But my journey started way back, actually. I became a yoga teacher quite young. I was probably about 22 when I wandered into my first yoga class, and I was a yoga teacher by 24. And then I really got into pregnancy yoga when I was pregnant. My little baby's 15 now. And when I was pregnant, it wasn't the easiest time in my life at all. The pregnancy was fine, but actually things going on in my life at the time made it really quite a difficult time for me. But my yoga really helped me. I remember that. It was like an anchor for me at the time, just breathing and moving every day. It really, really helped me. And then when I gave birth to Jacob, my yoga was there. It helped me. And I can honestly say it was the most incredible experience of my life. It was a straightforward labour. There was nothing easy about it, but the power, I couldn't believe what I'd done. I knew I was never going to be the same again. This little baby came and he came into my arms, and I just thought, wow, my God, I'm a woman. And I was so inspired by the process of birth, and I became a doula, or a trained birth assistant. And I've been a doula in Liverpool since Jacob was tiny. And, going to births has taught me so much. I've been to loads and loads and loads of births these 15 years. But I've seen that every woman is different. We're just different. We carry our babies differently. We birth our babies differently. Every birth is different. But all of us as women need the same things. We benefit from the same things in pregnancy. We need the same things in labour. And learning that, and it's reinforced all the time with the women that I work with. And yeah, I just love watching these bumps become babies and these women become mothers. It's the most incredible thing. I think so.
Yeah, and it's really nice what you said. One of the things that really resonated with me when I got introduced to what you do is, I think that there is this kind of polar opposites sometimes of there's the women who really are massive advocates of home birth and natural birthing, which I totally believe in, but then sometimes that can feel like it's almost a club of its own. And then there's other women that want to make different choices, whether that is for their own reasons. Everyone's got their own story and their own body to manage. So I really liked the way that everything that you did felt like no one was left out, and I thought that was really nice, because one of the things that I'm learning more as I kind of grow into this pregnant woman is that it's important to understand that you do have choices, and that no one should be shamed or judged for wanting to do things their own way, because there can be quite a lot of that. I feel a lot of judgment of this is right and this is wrong, whereas actually just to know that you've got choices is nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And we have, what a great country to give birth in, really. We've got, we can do what we want. It's wonderful. But just like we're different as women, we birth differently. Some women birth more easily than others. That's just a fact. Some labours will be fast, some labours will be slow. We'll need different things in labour. We don't know how our own labour is going to unfold. Nobody does. Nobody can tell you this is how it's going to be. And we are in quite an unprecedented time, I think, at the moment. We've got so much information available to us. Never have women who were birthing known so much about birth and labour. And I'm not sure it helps us so much, to be honest, really, because we don't give birth with the information that we've gathered in our head. It's not a mental process. It's not a checklist, right? I'm going to do this and therefore it will be like this. Like, that's all going on in our head. And what I do with women and the yoga that I work with, it's very subtle, it's very gentle, but we get out of the head and we get right down into the body. When we give birth with the strong feelings in our body. We've got wisdom in every cell in our body as women, and only we know what we feel, and only we know what's right for us. And the most important thing is that we do what's right for us. We can't tell anyone else how to birth or what's right, what's wrong. Gather information for sure, but sit with it, feel into it. What makes sense to you? What would you like to do? Where would you like to be? In terms of just as simple as home birth or hospital birth, be where you feel safest. Yeah. And that's going to be whatever it is for women. And I would say over and over again, I don't think there's a right way to birth. I think there's your way. And having seen women birth, I've not seen a baby be born and not cried my eyes out. Whether it's been plan A, beautiful plan A, or whether it's been plan B, once baby's here, plan B is beautiful. If it's plan C, if it needed to be plan C, if it got baby into your arms, if it was what was needed at every step of the way, beautiful, baby's here.
Yeah, I got a sense of that on your website through the birth stories that are on there from all the women that you've worked with. It was really nice to see that even people where they'd maybe had a plan A and then hadn't quite worked out and it ended up being something else, they were still so overwhelmingly positive about their experience. And I think that that's something that I'm trying to learn, because like you say, I think I am in tune with my intuition and what I feel is right, but then like you say, all the information sends you into your mind, and it's very difficult to because you've got all these different voices. You've got the medical side, like you've got the midwives, and if you're seeing a consultant like a doctor, they might say certain things, and then that might be different to what somebody else has said, and then you can end up on the internet thinking, oh, what should I do?
Yeah. And how does the internet know what you feel, what your heart says, what your cells saying to you, what your body's saying to you? And there's like dualities in what you've just said, polar opposites, if you like, or there's this or there's that. Really simply, with a lot of the work that we do in pregnancy yoga, I don't necessarily talk about this a lot, but we do it as a practice. you know, as women, a lot of us get up in our heads. And just to demonstrate it, if I was to say, oh, got a great idea. You know, all the energy's just gone up and suddenly I'm like, oh, I'm excited, I'm up in my head. And, you know, that's not really going to help me to birth. But if I put my hands on my belly, and you could do it if you like, put your hands on your belly and just take a few big breaths and just feel your belly expand and soften. And maybe take a big sigh. And that's going to take us to a really different place in our bodies. And when we're in our bodies, we're present. You know, the mind likes to solve problems. It's fantastic. It's a tool. It can fix stuff. But in our culture, quite often, it's trying to preempt things all the time. And it can just go a little bit over the top, really. You know, when we can just be really present with today, present with your baby right now. I mean, that's exciting, isn't it? When you think this little baby's here right now. Let's not worry too much about next week or next month or 6 months' time. Let's just enjoy the roundness of my tummy here and now. And that's going to help us to be less up in the head, more into feeling what's right now. And then we can be a bit more in touch with our own needs. You know, and our needs do guide us, because our bodies talk to us all the time. Don't you think? They kind of whisper and say, oh, I'd like this, I need that, oh, I need to stretch, I'd like a walk, I need to sleep. And if we listen to it, my experience is that things go well. If we don't listen to our needs and we keep ignoring the whispers, you know, body can shout. Pregnancy can be hard.
I think that's one of the silver linings of the lockdown, is that for me, I have found it hard to stay grounded at points because of the whole situation. It's just it's very unsettling. So sometimes I feel like I'm floundering around, but it's given me more time to have naps, which is really nice, just to be able to listen to your body and just think, do you know what, I actually just want to lie down now, and that's what I want to do. And like you say, to be able to just have that quiet time of stroking my tummy, staying in bed for an extra half an hour, and meditating, and then just holding my bump. I just think if I was running around outside in normal life, that would be harder to do. So that's been one of the really nice things.
Yeah.
And my partner being around as well, to, you know, us being together more, so that the baby's now like hearing his voice as well, and he's able to put his hands on my tummy more. So that's been lovely, but it can be challenging to ground, especially when like anxiety and fear. For me personally, and I know that this is what sounds like it happens with a lot of other mums, is that you have all these stories. Like for me, what happens is something that somebody said 3 years ago that had given birth, it's just like it's somewhere in my mind, and now I'm pregnant. It's like it's come forward. And I think that sometimes those stories can be loud, and like you say, the whisper of what's inside saying, actually, do you know what, that isn't your story, and your story could be very different, and you're your own person, and it's a unique experience for you. It's hard sometimes when that fear is there. And I know that that's a big thing in when you come to give birth as well, really, that I mean, you know so much more about this, but from what I understand, it's like adrenaline is almost the enemy of birth, and oxytocin is your friend, and it's trying to get out of that fear in your mind state and get into the oxytocin.
Yeah, I mean, adrenaline's got a real purpose, and fears have a purpose in that they can protect us and keep us safe, and, you know, tell us if there's a lion coming into the village or if we're in danger in any way. But yeah, left to its own devices, the mind, if it can do whatever it likes, you know, if it goes off to fearful thoughts, stressful thoughts, going to bring adrenaline into the body. And adrenaline's our fight or flight. And in pregnancy, we do want to keep stress hormones down because we need oxytocin. You know, if adrenaline's fight or flight, oxytocin, it's got some beautiful names. You know, it's the birth hormone. It's the hormone of love. It's also the hormone of closeness. I think it's the hormone of tenderness, of softness. I've heard it called the cuddle hormone. Isn't that gorgeous? Yeah. The cuddle hormone. So they are opposites, and you could say it's fear and love. We're mammals, and we've got the same hormone system as every single mammal. And every mammal, in order to birth, needs to feel safe and needs to be warm enough and needs privacy. You know, you wouldn't get a mammal going to all the other mammals, come on, it's starting, everyone, come and watch. Right, you rub me back, you make the tea, everyone get involved. You know, no, it's like, it's really private. The mammals will be like under the bush, you know, away from the others, just looking for that quiet place where adrenaline will be low and the feel good, relaxed oxytocin flows. And we can cultivate this in pregnancy as well. You know, we do it when we just put the little things in place to make your pregnancy beautiful. We want to keep fears out the way. So what you watch, what you read, what you listen to, but things coming up from your subconscious, you know, it's the normal, the films we've seen, the soap operas we all watch, the stories we've been told, they're up in our head. And that process of coming back down into your body, of coming right back down into your belly today, can just keep the fear out of the room, if you like. And the things that we can do to cultivate oxytocin in pregnancy, but in birth as well, but even before we get to labour, you know, if you can be massaged, that's wonderful. But, you know, if you've got no one who'll massage you the way you want to massage you, we can't take ourselves to these beautiful professionals right now.
I know.
You know what? Massage yourself.
Yeah.
Just put oil all over your body.
Yeah.
Yeah, and massage all your curves, and, you know, just take the time to feel beautiful, have nice long baths. But whatever it is for you that makes you feel nurtured, relaxed, supported, you know, do more of those things. And I agree with you that the big picture of the lockdown, it's, you know, it's really destabilizing. It's a lot of uncertainty. It's frightening. But actually the micro picture, which is your body, your baby, your breath, your heart, your home, you know, we can have control in there, and we can do things that are going to support us, make us feel relaxed, feel good. And it's moment to moment, you know, rather than say, right, for the next six weeks I'm going to make myself relaxed every day. Actually, just do it today. And I love it that you're, you know, having time to listen to your needs and napping. Such a fan of napping.
Yeah, that's been nice. And I think, like you say, is just speaking from experience, and I know other people can do this as well, is it almost becomes something to another stick to beat yourself up with, is that people will be like, you know, just relax, and then you start to think, well, okay, this is my new task, relaxation is my task, and I'm going to make this happen. And then if you do have, because I personally at the moment, I'm very up and down, so some days I'm able to feel grounded and calm, and then other days I can get so easily thrown off. I feel like it's a lot windier at the moment outside with all that's going on, so I get blown off sometimes, and what I'm trying to do is not beat myself up about that and be like, oh, you failed and you're not relaxed now, and just accepting, well, this is how I feel right now, and if I try and push it away, then it's just going to persist. So just almost to say to myself, okay, I know today is a bit hard, what can we do? Like, you know, do you have to do that? No. Could you add a nap in? Could you make yourself, what do you really fancy to eat? You know, just nurturing, like you say. Or could I give my mum a call and just let her know, oh, mum, I'm having a bit of a bad day, and then she'll just comfort me. So it's just not being too hard on ourselves, which I think, like you say, I think women as a generalization can be really hard on ourselves.
Yeah. Oh, so much wisdom in what you've said, and totally agree, totally relate. Yeah, checklist for self-care, must do this, must do that. And it's not like that, is it? And the up and down thing at the moment, it's global, and we are all in it together. And even knowing that can help me anyway. I think, right, if I'm feeling a bit like this today, probably most other people are as well. And I'm definitely feeling like we're riding the storm, and that the ups and downs are something that we're all going to go through. I mentioned in class last night actually about allowing emotions, giving them space when they come, because when we try to stop our emotions, that's tricky, isn't it? That gives us real problems. But if we can cry if we need to cry, if we can just respond to emotions, do a lot of moving the body when I'm feeling particular emotions, or I guess it's awareness, isn't it?
Yeah, it's having that awareness and not judging things as good or bad. So, if you do need to have a cry, like I'd watched a film yesterday, You've Got Mail, it's on Netflix, it's a Meg Ryan one, and Rob came down just at the end, and it's where they get together and she doesn't know it's him, and I just had a proper cry. And he was laughing at me because he just sort of came down and saw me at this silly, at this moment. And I thought, do you know what? It felt good. So sometimes just letting yourself, not thinking, oh, this is silly, I shouldn't cry. Using music and films and things that are going to help you to release some of those emotions in a healthy way. And like what you said about what you expose yourself to, like I was watching a few dark things on Netflix and I've just cut them off because I thought I don't need that, and I don't need to constantly watch the news at the moment to constantly be in what's going on outside. I feel like I'm trying to create a womb for me. So we've got the baby in the womb, and then there's this little womb around my home. That's what I feel like I've been trying to cultivate, really, to help me.
Oh, that's so gorgeous. I can just see it now. You just, in a beautiful womb. That's amazing. Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that we've just talked about accepting all the feelings, because when I've been doing research into this idea of positive birth, which is, it's absolutely brilliant. I've brought this book up because my friend just lent it to me. I don't know if you've seen it. It's yeah, I've not started it yet, but I keep hearing about this book about your body, your baby, your choices. Give birth like a feminist. I'll link to it below. And like reading about hypnobirthing. I've listened to some good podcasts which I'll link to below with Catherine Graves, the hypnobirthing teacher, and just this idea of positive birth and hypnobirthing I think is great. It's just I get a little bit triggered around things that can just solely focus on the positive. Like it can feel a bit fake sometimes, but once you delve into the subjects of positive birth, it isn't like that. It's not just about having to force positivity, but it's been really helpful for me sort of looking into that. And I've watched a few videos online of women giving birth and just seeing what contrast that is, and hearing people's birth stories about, I went into labour and we went out for a walk and got a cup of coffee and then came home and we watched a film, and I'm thinking, this isn't the picture. I was really shocked. So it's just that idea that it's not what you think it is. It can be sometimes obviously very intense and challenging, and things can go wrong, but that's not the general experience from what I'm getting anyway.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, the positive birth movement kind of took birth back from what had become quite medicalized, and also the information that women were getting was quite frightening, and we were being given the message that, you know, this is how birth is, and you know, some really, you know, shocking stories about the turns in history that birth has taken. So I really welcome the positive birth movement, you know, absolutely. And what it's told us is, guess what? Women need to be really relaxed for labour. And when we're really relaxed, that really, really helps. So, you know, if we just took that message, oh, okay, so I want to do what I can to help myself be really relaxed. You know, what I've done in yoga for years and years is this idea of being really embodied, being present. But for me, it's always the breath. You know, if we don't remember anything else, exhale and exhale again, because the breath isn't going anywhere. You know, that's your anchor, that's with you, not necessarily having to, oh, I must remember that, I must say this, I must look at this, I must, you know, that's all up in the head. Actually, the breath will bring you right down into your body. And that takes us into an oxytocin space. Now, when labour begins, it's a really powerful natural process. You know, yeah, sometimes it starts quickly and it's powerful straight away. For some, it's a slow, steady start. You know something's changing, you know something's different, but it doesn't feel like it's really arrived yet. You know, either's fine. We're women, we birth differently. But as oxytocin really flows, and it's going to flow more effectively if we can keep that adrenaline low, if we can keep fear out of the birthing space. Oxytocin shuts down the thinking part of the brain. So it shuts down the neocortex, so we call it neocortex inhibitions. It inhibits the neocortex. So all that information that you talked about, the films we've seen, the stories we've heard, all that stuff we've gathered about birth, oxytocin shuts that part of the brain down. So all of that, you know, it goes, and we go naturally into the primal parts of our brain. Now, in the primal parts of our brain, we know how to give birth. You know, we just get on with it. It's our instincts, it's our reflexes. So this is the natural process, and it's not something that we can force by getting information. Okay, so I've got to go into the primal part of my brain. You know, it doesn't work like that. It's not something we can make happen, but it is something that we can get in the way of.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. That idea of getting in your own way is a really good way to think about it. Yeah.
And other people getting in your way as well. You know, that's why we need privacy in labour. Because what will help us to go into that primal brain, what will help the neocortex to switch off, is stop thinking. You know, and that's not something that you can make happen either. But in my experience, this is what I teach women: you stay with the breath. Just stay with the breath. And a woman in labour naturally becomes quieter. So you might be chatting at the start, you might be laughing, there's excitement, there's a little bit of, oh, you know, baby's coming. But at some point, in my experience, women will naturally go quieter in labour. And that's a really good sign that the process is happening. Oxytocin's shutting down the thinking part of her brain, and she's going somewhere where she's not thinking. So we want to help her to stay there. And we do that by helping a woman in labour be as undisturbed as possible. You know, every time we disturb a woman in labour, she has to think. She has to think to speak, or the lights might be too bright and it's hard to relax when the lights are bright. If she hasn't got enough privacy, or if there's people having conversations around her that aren't her, she's going to be, you know, tuning into those. So being undisturbed helps us to stay on what I call is planet labour. It's another place. It's an altered state. You know, we want to get there and stay there.
Yeah, I love that planet labour. It's a really lovely way of looking at it, and I think what you were saying, what it reminds me of, and this is one of the things that I'm actually worst at in my whole life, is riding a bike. Honestly, I could ride a bike as a kid, but now I'm grown up, I'm terrible. And any time we've gone out on the bike and I've tried to do it, it's like I keep getting in my head and I stop and I start, so I don't get momentum. and then a break, and then it's harder, and I get wobbly because I'm not going into it, you know, I'm not leaning into the experience of it. And it's a bit like what you said, if people keep, you need to get in that flow and you're in that state, then a bit like if anyone that does anything creative, or I don't know, you're building something, or painting a picture, or you're writing an essay, or you're studying, and you just get into that flow and you think, wow, where have I been, you know, where did that come from? It's like, I guess, is it a bit like that? You want to get into that birth state of just no distractions, you're just in it.
I think so. I think so. That's the natural, powerful process, you know, and it's our creative energy. It's lovely that you just mentioned creativity, because it's your creativity that births your baby. It's the same energy. In yoga, we call it Shakti. You know, it's a power. It's the feminine force of the universe. It's big stuff. And get in. Yeah, and even with creativity, it's not something that we can make happen, but we actually have to allow it to happen. And that's, I feel like, what we do with birth. And, you know, I talk about surrender, and it's a bit of a funny word for some people, because I've heard other people say, oh, no, surrender, that's like giving up, isn't it? And I think, no, I don't use it that way. Surrender for me, you don't surrender to somebody and say, oh, well, whatever you want. You surrender to birth itself, and birth will take you further than you thought you could go. That's where we go, you know. So we've got a comfort zone, and in our preparation we're like, well, okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can't do that. And just beyond that, we meet our babies.
Yeah, oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's powerful.
When you're in it as well, it's like, I know people talk about, sorry if you can hear that, that's just my cat. She's crying out for some attention like a little baby. But yeah, it's like you sort of, I'm trying to think, she's put me off now. It's getting into that mindset where you just, you don't know what you can do until you're in a moment. Like, if, just say for example with this lockdown situation, if someone had said to me when I found out I was pregnant, oh yeah, you're pregnant now, and by the way, in a month's time there's going to be a global pandemic and you're not going to be able to go to work, and you're going to be in your house and you won't be able to see anyone, and I would have been like, whoa, I can't take that in, I can't. But when it happens, you deal with it, you do it. It's the thinking about it. You can't think, but when you're in it, you amaze yourself at what you're able to, how resilient you can be, and how much power we've got inside us.
Oh, yeah. And you know, and it's doing whatever needs to be done right now. That's what we can do. You know, I don't want to leave men out, but especially as women, and the women that, you know, I know and knowing myself, whatever I need to do right now, I can do it. But if I go off into the future, I don't know. You know, the mind can just make stuff up. It's too scary. If I go off into the past, you know, there's stress available there as well. But when I'm right here, when I'm right present, which is the only place to be when we're birthing, I can just do it. You know, and it's step by step, it's breath by breath, it's surge by surge, you know, until you hold your baby.
Yeah. And one of the things that I noticed on your birth stories, which I liked, because talking about like the male role and the male perspective, you know, I've done a lot of reading around it, and just the idea that over history, you know, men have kind of stepped in and taken over, and a lot of like the medical side of birth, of this is the way it should be done, and almost as women we are the ultimate creators, because we can create new life. And maybe that in the past with patriarchal systems has maybe made men a bit afraid of our power. And I think it's really nice now that it seems like that's kind of changing and going back to more women supporting each other, and it's more pro women's choice, and there's more midwife led options and things. So that feels really good. And I know that you do these couples workshops, And someone I know that went on one, she was saying her partner was like, oh, it might be a bit woo woo, and I wasn't sure, but he said it was so much more valuable than anything else they'd done, and it really helped him. And in the birth stories on your site, there was one where one woman was like, if her husband hadn't have got involved with learning more about the process and that calmness, he might have been like, you know, coaching her through like they were at a football game or something. Whereas because she'd learned so much from you about the process and he'd learned, he wasn't doing that, and he was able to let her be quiet, and it's like, you can do it, come on, you know.
Yeah, disturbing her. Yeah. I feel really quite passionate about the couples workshops I run, because I actually bring a lot of my doula training into it. You know, training as a doula, it's training to be a birth partner, and birth partner role is so important. You know, it's underestimated, and yeah, the world changed when men came into birth, and I'll say now that some men are just beautiful birth partners, you know, wonderful, wouldn't want to give birth without them, but some men shouldn't be there, you know. Women would birth a lot better if the man's the wrong person to be the birth partner. She would birth better if he wasn't there. So I hope that at some point we come round to a really honest conversation about having men there who really want to be there, and women feeling able to choose their birth partner as who is the right person to support them. And if it's their partner, great. If it's their mum, have their mum. It's a sister. If it's a best friend, you know, much more of an openness about who is the right person for the mum, with no judgment. You know, in the past, the men guarded the door. They stood outside and they kept the home safe while she birthed. But yeah, not knocking men. There's, you know, so many dads who just, it changed their life when they saw their baby born, and it's the most wonderful thing that ever happened, that they could be at the birth. But not everyone, you know, not everybody at all. But being a birth partner, it's about being a really rock solid emotional presence. You know, the more you can be really present with her, and I'll tell the dads to put their phones away, switch them off, you know, to bring a good packed lunch, but to give her your full attention in a way that's not going to disturb her. In the couples workshop, we go through ways of moving, ways of breathing, positions for labour, but we talk a lot about oxytocin. And men, in my experience, and I'm just going to generalise, I don't think they'll mind.
Everything on these is a bit of a generalisation. We know there's exceptions, yeah.
But most men like to know what their job is. And if they know what their job is, that's great. They'll crack on and get it, you know, get on with it. It's quite stressful if they know they've got to do something, but they're not sure what it is. So in the workshop, I tell men that their role is to be a strong, loving presence, you know, to be an anchor for her, so she can do whatever she needs to do to birth their baby without judgment, feeling loved. Because our role, or what we do when we birth, is we go down inside ourselves, and there's a really vulnerable place to be, you know, to be way down inside yourself, surrendering, trusting, moving moment to moment. That's really a scary place to be, and at the same time, we're also so powerful when we're birthing. And for men to be able to hold a space for that, there's so much that she doesn't have to worry about when she knows he's right there. He's got the door, he's got it back, he's, you know, gonna worry about the external things, so she can really get onto planet labour and do what only she can do, which is birth the baby.
Yeah, that's a beautiful partnership then, isn't it, like you say, and it's highlighting to men that there is that role. Because I think I listened to a podcast recently, and someone was saying their partner had heard, oh, there's never a time when you feel more useless than when your partner's giving birth. But the experience of the person that was talking about it said that because her and her partner had done hypnobirthing course, and they'd done they had a doula. He knew what his role was and what he could do, and actually it was something where she said she couldn't have, it was really beautiful because she said she couldn't have done it without his support. Like, just the fact that he was there doing all of those things, external things, meant that she could just zone in. And so he was a vital part of the process, and that's sort of the way we're trying to think about it at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. Yeah, it's the masculine and the feminine. The feminine coming way down inside, and the masculine holding the space safe. It's a beautiful way to think about it.
Yeah, that's it is. It's a lovely journey to go on together, and I think that I've been leaning into my feminine a lot more, and but then also finding that the feminine isn't just this kind of like soft, oh, I'm going to go around in a floaty dress and everything's going to be calm, because I think I feel more empowered, because I could always be a bit of a people pleaser, and say the midwife says to me, you need to do this, or not, or they'll say we'd recommend this, and they will kind of dictate a little bit what's going to happen. And sometimes if things don't feel right to me, I'll think, well, do I have to do that? And do I have a choice? Can I ask more questions? What feels right for me? And I think that that's been really valuable, that it's about, you find this power in yourself, because it's not just you, it's about your baby, and you're fiercely kind of protective and connected with that other life that's inside you. So just, I'm finding that I'm getting a bit more feisty of being like, this is the way I want it, and I'd like, I don't want to do that. That's a big challenge for me personally, and imagine for a lot of other women, to not say, oh, sorry, because the doctor said I have to do this. And I've heard people talk about, sometimes, you can be told, oh, we'll just, you've gone overdue and we're going to induce you next week, and we'll put the date in the diary, and actually peeling things back, and sometimes saying, well, can you let me know, is that my only option? What are my other options? And having that choice, which, I know that in the NHS in our country, that's a big thing now. It's part of this Better Births report that they did in the last few years, is that as much as possible, it's about giving women the choice, and just remembering that all the way through, and not being afraid to ask questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you say about the feminine, because that sounds like you're finding the voice of the mother. And so many different faces. And I think about the women that I've been with in labour, and the times that I felt like I was literally in a room with a lioness, like so much energy, so powerful. And there was none of this, oh, come on, you're all right. It was like, stay back, she's birthing, she's terrifying, and this is happening, and incredible. And some women will birth with that kind of fierce warrior energy, and amazing, like, let it come. And other women are naturally quieter, maybe, go into that really deep space and just birth like the earth itself, just you're just waiting for baby to come. And for some women there's a bulldog energy. And I tell lots of stories about the births I've been to, and every one of them has got such a dear place in my heart. I can't tell you. But one lady, I remember saying, she'd been quiet, she'd been focused, she'd been standing, she was rocking, she was just doing it, she was just getting on with it, and we'd been up through the night, we're all in her kitchen, midwife was there, me and hubby were there, and she hadn't spoken for ages, surges were just coming like thick and fast, she was breathing through every one of them, and I remember she just suddenly shouted at us all, I'm only doing 10 more contractions. And she just told us just like that, and we all went, fine, 9 more, I'm only doing 9 more. Fine, fine, fine. And she just counted down, and you know, she was just so like, to me, she just looked like she was getting really close to giving birth, because that power that can come, it can be a sign of transition, and a sign that there's adrenaline coming into the system now naturally. You know, we want oxytocin, we want to be undisturbed, we want to be calm, we want to be focused. But when we're fully dilated, when we're waiting for baby to start to move, we go into transition and the body produces adrenaline. And that gives us energy to birth the baby. But with that adrenaline can come emotion. Not for everyone, but often women will express that adrenaline as emotion and maybe say things like, can't do it, I can't do it, you know, not doing it, or I'm only doing 10 more contractions. And that's the place where usually we maybe we've already gone past what we thought we can do, and to go any further feels we're going into the unknown, and it's, you know, it's scary. Transition can feel frightening and overwhelming. So at that point, in that place, a woman needs to be held safe, reminded that not only can she do it, she's almost done it, and to use that energy to bring baby. I know when I was having my Jacob, I remember suddenly shouting really loud, and the words came out before I even knew I was going to say anything, and I said, I can't do it. And I remember the midwife looked and she was smiling, which pissed me off. And she said, oh, we've not heard you say that before, Jenny. And I was like, I don't understand why she's smiling and why she's saying it, because I really feel like I can't do it. But when I look back now, you know, I think she probably could see this is transition and we're nearly there. So she's full of joy, you know, as I am as a doula now. When I see the signs of transition, I'm like, yes. But at the same time, you want to remind her that not only can she do it, she's almost done it.
Yeah, and when you talk about transition, that was something that I've not really got up to that part in my hypnobirthing course yet. But just that idea, quite a few people said it really helped them prior to know that was part of the process. Because I've got some friends that, you know, not, this isn't me judging, but, you know, were young and they didn't know anything about what to expect in the birth. They just sort of thought, oh, maybe the less I know, the better. And I guess if that suddenly comes on you and you're thinking, what's happening, it can be quite scary. Whereas at least if you know on some level, okay, this could be a good sign, and I'm feeling this, but this means I'm getting close. At least you know that nothing is going wrong. It's part of the process.
I think so. And that's why I talk about it, you know, because I didn't know about transition when I gave birth. But I remember seeing that very thing work really, really well, because I'd been up through the night, I was sitting by the pool, Mum was just, you know, leaning on the edge, just flowing on the water, the candles were on, the music was playing, and she was on planet labour, she was gone, surges were just coming, she was breathing through it all. It was like a really beautiful space. And then the sound, a breath changed. So I'm just listening, and it went from that really quiet to something like this. Really good sound.
Yeah.
You want to hear it. And I just came to her and said, you're doing really well. I just whispered, you're doing really well, not to disturb her. And I remember she looked up. I didn't recognize her. She just looked at me. She's like, fierce face, and she said, I'm not doing well. And then she cried and she said, I'm not doing well. And, you know, I was just there. I was just holding the space, and she had a little cry, and then she looked at me and with a massive smile and said, I'm in transition, aren't I? And she was, and she had a little baby girl not long after that. So, but again, everybody's different, you know, and some women don't experience transition like that. Some women will just be having mega surges that get stronger, that get longer, that closer together, that start to move downwards, you know, and that's the transition, is the power that's pushing baby. But I think it's helpful to know the emotional journey of labour as well, because if our positive preparation puts us in a place where we say, oh, it's going to be like this, and I'm going to be like this, then, oh, there's a little bit of rigidity there. That means if the power that comes to birth your baby means that you completely lose your shit, that you won't feel bad about it. Does that make sense? Just to feel like that's how I did it. That's how I birthed. That's what I did. And that was what was needed at the time. I think that's good, because I do have a little bit of hesitation if I think that people have got an idea of, it's just going to be like, I'm going to birth like this.
Yeah.
I'm who knows? But all we do know is that if we can get into a relaxed state, breath by breath, till we meet our baby, and just flow with what comes, let the path unfold and go step by step, and then birth your baby your way. And you won't know what your way is. It's so primal until baby's coming, and do it that way.
It kind of goes back a little bit to what we were saying before about that idea of when we want to just feel good all the time. We want to feel positive. So when we do have stress or anxiety, we can fight it and be like, no, I want to feel happy. I need to feel happy. And I just have this image in my mind, because I'm quite a placid person, and can imagine that I could be quite chilled. I don't know, this is just, who knows? But I also know that I can have like a proper potty mouth, where if things go badly, I can really F and blind and, just not at someone, but just it helps me. Just like, oh, for fucking hell, and I think I could be a raging, sweary, crazy birth, and just to be like, that's okay too. I don't want to, and that's my concern a little bit sometimes with like positive birth and some of the ideas that I think on the surface of it, you can think, oh, I've just got to sit and be like I'm, on a meditation cushion, and I'm just going to cough and the baby will come out because I've meditated through my pregnancy. It's like, you just don't know. Could be.
No.
Doesn't
I think the biggest thing is we don't want fear to make our decisions. And when I said about losing your shit, just to kind of, when we're birthing our babies, when that energy is moving through your body, it's something else. It's like nothing else, But while we're labouring, if we feel afraid, and fears are natural, but we don't want those fears to stay and make decisions for us. We don't want those fears to kind of lead the way, if you like. So use the breath to stay calm, to stay relaxed. When fears come, come back to the breath, because chances are your mind has gone somewhere else. But absolutely nothing wrong with swearing your baby out. And some women use sound really, really well. Sound can really help. But the sounds that will help us are sounds that go downwards.
Yeah, that primal, like the sound you made before, it's very primal.
Yeah.
Like sometimes my cats make these crazy sounds, and it's like, that it's immediately, or something's going on. That's a different. It's really deep. And that's interesting. And around sound, one of the things as well, which I've noticed you do, is you talk about surges, and that's another thing that I think I'm finding out more about, is changing as I go through the pregnancy. I'm thinking, this is an opportunity for me to rethink some of the language and be mindful a little bit of saying, rather than saying, am I feeling pain? Thinking about different words and all the different sensations, and rather than saying, is there anything wrong? Do you feel fear? Or saying, what can I do to make myself feel safe? So trying to reframe the things, and like not contractions, which can sound, I don't know, the way that word makes you feel, whereas surge sounds like it's got a flow to it, and movement that's gonna move through. So you can go with that a bit more. And it's interesting, like the language that's used is important as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And some people are more sensitive than that to others. But But imagine if contractions were called expansions, because I say, the contraction, it is what it does, it tightens the womb and it pushes baby down. And at the same time, it's drawing the cervix up and opening. I mean, it's brilliant. We want them. We really, really want them. But in between each contraction, there's this expansion, and this soft tissue is softening. There's this elasticity in your body. Your pelvis is moving, and everything's just incredible engineering the way the body moves in preparation for labor. That's why I really love yoga, because and pregnancy yoga particularly. Pregnancy yoga is yoga for the female body to help us do naturally what the female body does, which is open to give birth. A lot of the tough physical exercise that we do in our culture, and the power yoga that's quite a masculine practice, if you think about it, it brings everything in and up and tight. And it's not what we need in pregnancy and birth. We want to be round, we want to be soft, we want to be able to open in the ways that we need to open. And we need the pelvis, this is my little pelvis, to be able to move in the ways it's meant to be. So yeah, sacroiliac joints, pubic symphysis at the front. We need the pelvis to be able to move in the ways it's designed to, and not move in the ways it's not designed to. So in our pregnancy yoga that we work through pregnancy, we can stabilize the pelvis, and that can get rid of loads of aches and pains. A stable pelvis moving in the ways only it's designed to is going to really help us for pregnancy, but also to prepare for birth. But at the same time, we need the pelvis to move in all the ways it's meant to. As a society, we sit on chairs a lot. We're not women who squat around the fire every day. We've got high toilets, and we don't move our bodies in the ways that they did for thousands and thousands of years. But we do in our yoga classes. So getting the pelvis mobile.
Yeah, and what's interesting what you said about squatting, because I know that a lot of people talk about positions during pregnancy, and this idea that if you needed to pull over on the motorway and you needed to go for a poo, what would you do? You'd go in the bushes, like you say. You'd find somewhere where as many little people are going to see you as possible, and you definitely, most people are not going to lie on their back and try and have a poo. You're going to naturally squat down, and that's the way that you're going to do it. So I got that in my head, because we all know what it feels like to really need to go to the loo, and you're just not going to lie down and do that. So this idea of all the films we've watched where the women are lying down and they've got the legs in stirrups and they're shouting and someone's shouting push 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 is very far removed from what naturally we may find easier. Not everyone, obviously, because people are different.
Yeah.
But yeah, that idea of squatting. So I've been doing some yoga at home, and I'm going to do your course as well, which I'm really looking forward to. It would have been nice to do it in person, but if it's online still, that's fine. But yeah, just that idea of I think the way I'm seeing pregnancy is it's a good opportunity to without it being on a strict routine of I must do this, this and this. It's a nice way to embed stuff that so when you do come to give birth, it's already kind of in your muscle memory and in your life. So you've kind of embedded that, so it feels natural. Because when you start doing something else, I remember I've done yoga for about 10 years, but I remember going to my first class, and everything was so weird and new, and I felt uncomfortable. So it takes time to just feel like things are second nature almost.
Yeah. Getting into your body. Yeah, and talking about squatting, and not birthing on your back. I like that what you said about the motorway. Now I kept thinking about the M62 going, would I?
But you really needed to, you would. hopefully without too many beeps of like, oh, there's a poo.
But there's 3 natural birth positions for us as human beings, you know.
Okay.
And lying on our back isn't one of them. Left to our own devices, women wouldn't choose to lie on their back. And I don't know if you know, but it's to do with the movement that happens in the back of the pelvis as babies come in. So here's my little pelvis here, and we've got the spine here, and then we've got the sacrum and the tailbone down here. And as babies moving down, pelvis does this first, and then we stretch across the back. So we sometimes, I don't know about you, but I always thought birth was something that happened in the front of the body, but actually we make space for babies right across the back of the pelvis.
All the way round.
Yeah, well, right across the back. So those muscles and ligaments are relaxing and stretching through pregnancy. We want to get rid of unnecessary tension in the back of the pelvis in pregnancy, and then for birth preparation. Because as baby starts to move down, the whole sacrum, coccyx, tailbone just rises slightly in a way that creates a soft swelling across the lower back. Okay. And in old-fashioned midwifery, they would be looking at the lower back to see if baby was moving down. That was one of the things that they would look for. So when we understand about the movement of the pelvis, then we wouldn't choose to lie on our back. So if you don't need to be on your back, don't be on your back. If you're okay, if baby's okay, you know, move in the ways that feel good. Sometimes midwives need you to come onto your back, so that what they can do what they need to do easier. And if it's not plan A, you know, the midwives do a wonderful job, but always feeling able to say no, like you said, that powerful mother energy of, I need to do this, I'm going to do this. Because when we're birthing, we're not ill. We've not gone, if you go into hospital, you've not gone into hospital because something's wrong and something needs fixing, like it is if you break your leg. We've gone in to have a safe space and for support to be there should we need it. But really, midwives, they serve mothers. You know, it is a job of service, and they're there to serve and support. And I've seen such beautiful midwives in action over the years, and midwives who say things like, whatever you need to do, you know, and to really respect what mum's wishes are, and to say to a woman in labour, whatever you need. It's a beautiful way to empower a woman in labour, so she can get the feeling of, I'm doing okay, I must be doing it right, I can do it.
Yeah, that idea of you have this support around you, but you're the real expert in your body, and you know what you're feeling, and obviously you want to listen to guidance and support from people around you. But ultimately, like, you know, I heard another story about someone where they just intuitively knew that they needed to do, and there were a few more surges, so the midwife thought this was going to be it, but they intuitively thought, not quite ready yet, I'm going to tear, or I don't feel this is the moment. So they said, no, not yet. And they listened to what was going on. And because of that, it was a lot smoother, and there was less, I don't think they had a tear, and they felt like that little moment. And the midwife just said to them, you do what you need to do, because they knew that it was safe, and, you know, that she was able to follow that intuition. So it's nice to...
Fantastic. Yeah, what a fantastic story. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and we're so lucky here, because I was actually reading following on from going on your site, that where we're based near, in Liverpool, and just outside of Liverpool, like the women's hospital is I think it might be the only women's focused hospital. Yeah. Or I know it's quite unique that we've got this women's focused hospital right on our doorstep.
I know, it's amazing. Yeah, we're so lucky. Yeah, it's just wonderful. Yeah, I've been to lots of births in the women's, and I know quite a lot of midwives in the area just from doing the work that I do over years. And honestly, I've got so much love for them all. The job they do is incredible.
Yeah, and having that, you know, like I was talking to a midwife recently, and she was saying, if you go on some home birth groups, you know, be prepared that there might be some people who've got strong views about midwives, or, don't worry too much about people like that, because I think, it's, for me, I want to come from it from a place of, and from my own health journey of, I've had issues with my thyroid, and I've tried to do everything naturally and been really against the Western medicine side of stuff. And getting pregnant, I had to have a little bit of assistance with that. So I've really come to a place of, there's beauty in both things. Yeah, you want to do things as naturally as possible, and do yoga and meditation and eat certain things, and all of that I'm really passionate about, but not to the exclusion of midwives and doctors are bad. And I think it's good to, if you can have
that's what you've just said, that's really healthy, because on my own health journey as well, I've come to the place of saying, I'm going to do what really works, and get what I really need. And I think that's really important in birth as well. And when I talked about, if going into hospital for a safe place and you've got the assistance if you need it, it's wonderful to think that should you and baby need extra support, it's right there. But until you need it, let's have the space without it, so yeah. And then it's being able to flow as well, because really once labour begins, we make our decisions with whatever we're presented with as the journey unfolds, so make a decision of, as things happen, as it unfolds.
Which I think is sometimes the greatest challenge for us. We're privileged, and we live in the Western world. We're so used to making choices that will have a definitive outcome. I'll place my Amazon order today and it will be delivered tomorrow, and I will do A, B and C, and I'll get to where I want to be. And I think that's another silver lining of this situation is, how much control do we actually have? There are things that are in our control, but a lot of it's an illusion. And when the shit does hit the fan like it has done recently, obviously it brings with it its own difficulties for all of us, but there's also opportunities to just, like you said before, surrender and think, well, what can I do? I've just got to go with it. So I'm hoping that's going to be a good lesson for me when it comes to the birth as well.
Absolutely. And you're right. Us Western ladies have got so much control, and but all birth preparation, really, I think it should be, we're preparing to surrender. How do you prepare to surrender? I'm not sure, but I know that my body speaks, and as women our bodies speak, and our bodies say really clearly yes and no, absolutely no. And we know that, don't we? And it's tuning into that as well in pregnancy and birth. If you ask yourself a question and then just see, it's quite subtle, but you can practice it. Does your body go, ooh, that's a yes? Or is it like, oh, and not to do with the head, but actually feel into what your body's got to say. And I think the more we can be in tune with that, call it intuition, call it deep feeling, call it inner knowing, call it the wisdom in yourselves. But the more we can follow that, I think it can guide us through pregnancy and birth.
Yeah, there's a lovely documentary, actually. I'll see if it's still on Netflix. It's called Insai, or I think that's how you say it. But it's a certain language's word for intuition, and it's a lady that just speaks to lots of different people from around the world about quiet time and tuning into the self, and just watching it is very calming. So I'll maybe rewatch that myself, and I'll try and post a link to it, because like you say, I think that getting out of your head and into your body seems like that's the big thing. And like say, prepare to surrender. It's almost like I think I'm using the right word, saying it's like a bit of a paradox, that, well, how can you prepare to surrender? But that's the mystery of it all, isn't it? We don't need to know, we don't need to understand. It's just trusting
Yeah, and oxytocin all the way.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, it's interesting what you said about it being the hugging hormone, because we're obviously a little bit more limited in who we can hug at the moment. So
I
hug
know.
whoever you can.
I
Yeah,
know.
hugging my
And you know what?
cats and my
And
husband.
hug yourself, hug
Yeah,
yourself and say something beautiful to yourself. My pregnant ladies in class, I'm saying just whisper something lovely to yourself every night. You've got this. You're amazing. You're growing a baby. You can do this. Even the little mantra, it's all going to be okay.
yeah.
Wow, how the words in our head and the things that we say to ourselves affect ourselves. The mystics have said it forever, but now the scientists are saying it as well.
Yeah,
Our words matter.
yeah, they definitely do. And just as we sort of bring this to a close, the idea of I can't physically finish this and give you a hug, but just trying to really nurture those connections that do make you feel good, and being mindful of, like we were saying before, what you expose yourself to, and just be, and when I'm with that person, or I listen to that person, I actually feel really calm and empowered. And so giving yourself some more of that, especially during this time,
Mm-hmm.
which is really nice.
Such good advice, Ruth.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, you've given all the advice. I mean, I'm very conscious that we're doing this video now. Maybe we should do a part 2, and we can talk about, touch wood, when I've had the baby, and hopefully, everything's healthy and beautiful. So it'd be interesting to.
That's lovely for you to say, actually, because however baby comes, your story is your story. And it matters, and not to feel under any pressure to have a particular type of birth that you can then be proud of or be quiet about or whatever. But we can do healing after birth, all of us, no matter how baby comes. When we give birth to a baby, a brand new mother is born as well, and we do heal, body, mind and spirit, and there's lots that we can do to be listened to when we've given birth. That's a big healing, and especially when birth is plan B or plan C, women need to be heard, and we're in a culture that they're not given that space to be heard. So that's sometimes why pregnant women receive birth stories that maybe they didn't ask for, because those women haven't had a place to be really, really held and heard. So yeah, postnatal healing, it's really important.
Yeah, and that time to reflect, and like you say, sometimes the most powerful thing I think I've found is things can go really wrong. Like terrible things happen to all of us that are difficult, like losing a parent, or all these traumatic things. But one of the greatest healers is if someone just allows you to they just accept you and they listen, and that can be turns it into a really beautiful, different experience. And I guess it's the same, because as lovely as it is to think that birth is this natural process, and we hope that we'll do all of this kind of preparation to surrender and everything will be beautiful, it like you say, it doesn't always follow the same for every woman. So it's just about not feeling shame. I feel so much shame about so many things, and I'm finally learning a little bit to let some of that go. And I think as well, just sharing your story, and in plan C, if you sharing that and being open and honest about it, could really help the healing of another woman who's maybe had some shame or about that experience. So us all being vulnerable and honest really helps us all, I think.
Being, I guess it's your authenticity, isn't it? But I think when you need healing, it's nice to be held by someone who is conscious that they can hold your story and just listen, and be a container for someone, because that's what we do for each other as women. But we can do it, some of us do it better when we're more conscious that this is what we're doing.
Yeah, we need people like you in our lives, which is as well as the well-meaning mums and friends and all those amazing people. It's nice to have other people that have got such a broader experience and haven't been in your story before, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And you know, I mean, the work I've done for so long, I feel really amazed by the amount of women in our area who are doing such good work around pregnancy and birth and postnatal healing. You know, there's some really wonderful women in our area doing such beautiful work, and I'm just really grateful.
Yeah, well, hopefully there'll be some people, who knows where they'll be, that'll listen to this, whether they're close by to us or on the other side of the world, and it may just help them to hear two people talking about things hopefully in an honest way. And it's been a beautiful conversation, because I feel like we've gone right from sort of the pregnancy and the birth, and then talking about afterwards, and like you say, so many things that you can do in a gentle way through your pregnancy, where you don't have to be hard on yourself, you don't have to create these checklists. Just go with the flow of it all, and see where it's
and what about being really kind to yourself, like treating yourself like you would your very best friend that you love dearly, who you knew just needed a bit of extra TLC?
Definitely. Like that, some of the things we say to ourselves, we would never in a million years say them to somebody else. And I know that it's very challenging, because we have this negative bias in our minds, but as much as we can, just to cultivate that kindness is. And I think it's actually Mental Health Awareness Week this week, and the theme of that is kindness. So yeah, it's definitely a time now to be kind to others as much as we can, but not forget ourselves as well. So yeah, and hopefully we can do like a part 2 and see where it does. We'll see. And what I'll do is as well, I'll post a link below to your Instagram and to your website. So if anyone wants to find out about, because at the moment you're doing so much stuff online, so there's potential for women that are maybe further to access what you're doing as well. So,
yeah, absolutely. Oh, thank you, Ruth. Thank you. And really my privilege to see you this morning and hear you and to, to get to know you and your journey. It's such a special time for you. So thank you for inviting me today.
Oh, no worries. And thank you for sharing all your wisdom, and there's so many lessons for me to learn from, but not kind of in a up in my head way, just being in your presence is really soothing. So it's been lovely.
Oh, thank you, Ruth. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. All right. Okay.
Take care. Have a beautiful day.